Weather was.
Yeah, the wind was insane.
Is that normal?
No, it's not. That kind of wind is not normal. Like, I mean, you can get it every now and then, like flat planes, but today was a lot. You can see all the cross footballs anytime someone.
We had to cut training short in the end. We didn't do the last practice.
Just let me know when the cameras and the Zoom in the back are good to go and we can get started. Awesome. All right, that's my cue. Well, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon as we welcome our new head coach of the Colorado Rapids, Matt Wells. Before we open it up to questions, we'll have some opening statements from KSE President of Team and Media Operations, Kevin Demoff, Colorado Rapids President Pádraig Smith, and of course, Matt Wells. Kevin, take it away.
I didn't know I got to lead it off, but it's an honor. It was about 2 months ago, Pádraig and I were downstairs talking about the vision for a new manager for the Rapids, new leadership, a new era, and describing the qualities that we thought would help us transition to the next phase for this club. And I could not be more excited to be sitting alongside Matt Wells as the new manager for the Rapids, who I think checks every box we wanted tactically from a leadership position, and most importantly, I think for a growth position for the Rapids as we look for this next age, as we hit our 30th year, and really what will be such an important season for the Rapids moving forward, especially as we begin the transition to the MLS new calendar and kind of being on the international circuit. So, this is one that I think when you envision what it is about getting it right, not taking a chance on someone who hasn't had a chance to manage, but more importantly, seeking that next phase of leadership for the Rapids and a true commitment to who we are, a Rapids style, a Rapids philosophy, which I think, may have been lacking in the previous few years. I know we got this right, and Matt, and could not be more excited to get going. The only disappointment, I had Arsenal gear for Matt to wear today, just to challenge him on the spot, to see if he could give up his Tottenham loyalties. But instead, he's not dressed like either Pádraig or I, and he came neutral. So a good first start for Matt.
Thanks. I'll echo a lot of what Kevin said, but I think it's really interesting for me because not often do we get to do something like this and announce a new head coach when he's already been in the building. But obviously because of preseason, that's what's gone on, and that gives me the great pleasure of being able to talk about what he's already done. And I think, a lot of what Kevin said, is how we set out to try and identify the next coach. And what's really thrilling for me is what we've already been able to see in such a short period of time. And that's what makes me most excited about what's to come over the course of the next season. As Kevin said, all the boxes ticked here, and that's hugely exciting for us. But then when you see what it means to the players, when you see their reaction, even if they are calling you a little bit crazy, it's all in a brilliant way because of what Matt has already shown them is possible. And I think that's been a huge breakthrough for this young group. And I know hopefully some people have seen the highlights from the game on Saturday, but if that's an indication of what's to come, we're in for an incredibly exciting year, and we're thrilled that Matt is at the helm of the team.
I didn't write those introductions, but I think the guys absolutely nailed it. No, listen, I'm so excited to be here. Obviously, seeing you guys on Zoom for the last month or so has been quite an experience. But yeah, great to be here now. We had a wonderful training camp. Now excited to get back to work here in Denver and create something special. That's why I'm here. I want to create a dominant football team that plays exciting football, and we've started the journey for that, but a long way to go. But very excited to be here.
Thank you. As we open it up for questions, Amelia will have the mic, but just please make sure, if it's your first question, to introduce yourself and your outlet, obviously, as Matt is still new and learning everyone's faces. So yes, if you have a question, please raise your hand.
Hey, Matt. Keith Richards, Team MDS Media. Good to finally see you in person.
Yeah, how's it going, Keith?
Good. I guess I want to start off with the fresh news that Miguel Navarro has been, reacquired by the team. What brought that about? Has the team, this is more of a question for Pádraig. What brought that about? Has the team followed him down in Argentina, and what made you finally decide to pull the trigger on that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. We certainly followed him. You know, I mean, that's something we do with all of those talented players that are, you know, have been in MLS and certainly players that have been with the club before, even if he didn't suit up for us at that particular point in time. I think our approach to the roster build this year was pretty clear. You know, as we went through the process with Matt, we spent hours, you know, many hours looking at each of the players and looking at and asking Matt, you know, which players he felt suited and where he felt the gaps were. And I think what we did, you know, pre the holiday period, even before Matt really got, you know, was announced or was fully on board, but we knew behind the scenes that Matt was coming, we worked on acquiring 2 players for positions that were immediate needs as far as we were concerned, as far as Matt was concerned. And that was obviously the defensive midfield position that we filled with Hamzat, and critically a left-footed right winger, you know, with pace and power. And we obviously achieved that with Dante Seeley. The plan at that point was very much to give Matt the preseason and allow Matt to kind of work with the players up close and really see who did fit and who could execute the game model and the demands that Matt has, because they're tough, you know, they're strenuous demands, both physically, mentally, technically, tactically, you know, so it was really important to us that to get this right, Matt was going to need to spend time around that. And we've identified a number of positions now that we need to reinforce, you know, we need to make sure that there's good competition there. And I think once we looked at our left back and identified that as being an area where we wanted to have somebody else in there to provide additional competition, you know, Miguel was a very easy choice for us. You know, he's somebody that knows the league well. He's somebody who's really excelled for Venezuela at the national team level as well, and has played in very, very high level of competition there. In fact, he's a green card holder, so he's domestic status within MLS, within the salary cap position. And again, we'd already done a lot of due diligence on Miguel. We knew him very well. We know the type of character and mentality he has. And as you all know, that's something that's incredibly important for us. So, you know, our scouting team, again, we're able to prepare that. You know, Matt was able to take a look, and we're like, yes, this is a player that we want to bring in to reinforce the group.
Good morning, afternoon. Great to meet you finally.
You too.
Welcome. Brian Jennings with Burgundy Wave.
Good to see you, Brian.
Yeah, well, not on a little screen. Just from our virtual chats the last few weeks, it seems a little bit like, you know, you and the staff, you guys aren't afraid to make changes on the fly or kind of keep opponents guessing. I'm just kind of curious if you wouldn't mind sharing, how does the depth through this roster allow you to kind of do some of that stuff and play things a little different from time to time, game to game, and things like that? Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, listen, we certainly won't change the identity too much. I think every time we step on the pitch, we want to be proactive, we want to press, we want to have the ball. I'm obsessed with having the ball, so that will always be the intention. But I think, like you said, we'll adapt certain things tactically. So yeah, having a deep squad definitely helps with that. Having players that are versatile definitely helps with that for sure.
Hey there, everyone. My name is Juan, Box State Footy. Just wanted to kind of hear from each of you guys in a sentence or two. What is the club's identity?
Want me to start? I think Matt's already touched on it to a certain extent. Like, you know, the identity of this club can be broken up into a couple of different things, like how we look in terms of a personnel perspective, and then how we look on the field in terms of the game model. And I think Matt can go to great lengths and talk about the game model itself, but it is this aggressive, front foot, attacking and entertaining soccer. That's what we're looking to play. And I think, as you will see over the course of the year, that is something that Matt brings, and that his game model is absolutely top drawer. And I mean top drawer. And we're talking about the very highest levels. Obviously, his exposure at the Premier League and Champions League level, the fact that he's coached some of the top players in the world, I think everybody is going to see that evidenced on the field. But then I think you can go a little bit deeper than that as well, you know, and I think it's clear that we're a club that values young players. We're a club that values homegrown players. We're a club that likes to develop talent, bring them through and help those players reach their full potential as well. So there's many different facets to that. And I know you wanted in one sentence or two sentences, Wanners, but it is something that's deeper, to be perfectly honest with you. But it goes throughout our organisation, always being bold, always looking to win, and always looking to do that in a particular way. And that's something that, you know, Kevin mentioned in the last press conference, this KSE DNA. And I think that's something that we want to live up to, and that's something that we know Matt can deliver on as well.
Yeah, listen, I think everything Pádraig said spot on. I think for me, I also want a culture of no limits. Like, I want the guys to not put a limit on anything. It's impossible to say what is possible for us this season. So it's about changing that mentality for me, giving the guys something exciting in terms of a brand of football, an identity on the pitch that they can buy into that's bigger than themselves. And as I said, so far I've made some good strides with that, but we have to keep improving, we have to keep building it.
I think as Pádraig mentioned and Matt just mentioned, for me it is having the Rapids be within the KSC DNA, right? Having young, talented leadership at the coaching positions, really growing through, I think as Pádraig said, you know, where it may be draft and develop with other clubs. Here it's finding young talent, and whether it's going them through the academy, through Rapids 2, and ultimately giving them playing time with the Rapids. It's being unique, right? I think fundamentally at our core, if you're doing the same as everybody else, you're going to get average results, right? There's just no way in any sport, no matter which sport you pick that we play in, that doing what everybody else does can get you ahead. There's no chance that you're going to be better at every position on the roster, coaching staff, front office, training staff, equipment, than everybody else. Where you can get an advantage is doing things differently and getting to the spots ahead of the curve before the rest of the leagues do. And I think that's where bringing in fresh ideas, that's where being younger can really help us grow and develop, and then sticking with that through time, not just getting halfway through a process and giving up on it, but really being committed to what you believe in, to doubling down and making sure that we know within this building what's expected out of all of us from each other. Being able to communicate that and truly believing in one another and offering that support along the way to get the results we want, because it's going to be process first and then the results will come after that.
I think, sorry, can I just add on that? We saw in the Orlando games, I did the debrief this morning with the guys, we conceded a goal, and then 1 minute, 31 seconds later, we scored a goal. And that for me is the answers are in our football. We get back on the wagon, we play our football, we go to attack, we go to score goals. I think all of that links to the mentality and us as a wider organisation.
Coach, good to see you in person. Pádraig, Kevin, good to see
Likewise.
you again. Matt Wickham with Pitcast. First, I want to say I've spoken to a few of the players candidly, and their ratings of you, while being tough, demanding, and quite a lot of running, have all been top. You've gotten a resounding stamp of approval from everyone I've spoken to. So also kudos to you, Pádraig, and Kevin on the hire. It seems like you've hit a home run. So I want to follow up with that one, with the recent valuations of the franchises that came out, with the Rapids being the third to least most valuable franchise, the lowest revenue, and KSC being announced last year as the highest valued sports conglomerate. So you've hit a home run with Matt, very much in the KSC model of your Sean McVays. How are you going to back it up to make sure that Matt Wells, the Rapids, have 5 to 10 years of success going forward?
Look, I think the most important thing is getting the sports right? Whatever sport you're in, it's getting the product correct, and it's giving fans something they can believe in, know with, and identify. From there, revenue follows success. There are very few models where you see clubs in any league with top revenue that have not had success either recently or previously. And so I think for us, it's about getting the football right. It's about getting the manager hire right. Then it's about building the fan experience, right? Building the fan experience around ritual, around fandom, about making people want to come to games, especially here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, right? How do you get 17,000 people in this building each and every home game to get a huge home advantage, right? Once you build that, then it's about building the following beyond. And we're so fortunate to have a large youth base. How do we get more people playing soccer here within Colorado? Then how do you grow them into fans? How do you grow them into MLS fans? How do you grow them into global soccer fans? I think it's tapping into all of those. Focusing on revenue, focusing on growing valuations is the absolute wrong way to grow your valuation. The best way to grow your valuation is to build a meaningful club that succeeds on the pitch and reaches fans off the pitch. If you're doing those things, everything else will come in time. And when you look at the KSE system, it's great to on paper be the highest valued sports entertainment, conglomerate. It's really meaningless if it's not planning on being sold anytime. I don't think anybody comes to the match because we're the highest valued franchise or the highest valued conglomerate, right? I think conversely, it's up to us, and especially I think within the KSE system, to show where the Rapids belong. I think this is the greatest growth story within KSC right now. When you look at this opportunity, exactly where you said, we have to own where we are, in the valuations. While I will quibble with valuations all day long in every sport, I think they're usually right directionally, right? Where you rank within the league, in any league, is probably usually fairly accurate. We can all talk about the metrics, we can talk about how they do it, but ultimately they're applying the same to each, right? And so for us, it's embarrassing to be where we are. We should not be there as KSE. And that's on us to make sure we get it right. But it's also why this is a process. This is about building the right way. And I know, I can tell from the last press conference that there's skepticism in the fan base about whether we'll deliver. That's fine. That's earned. We've earned that over time. That skepticism is deserved. What it's up to us to do right now is to put a great product on the pitch, to support that with the right marketing initiatives, the right ways to draw a fan base in, to make this the best experience we can in MLS. And yes, we don't have a brand new shiny stadium, but that doesn't mean this place can't be packed and rocking. You see it for the U.S. men's national team. You see it for the U.S. women's national team. We know this is a great soccer state. We know this is a great soccer city. We've seen the enthusiasm around the match at Mile High. We have to deliver that into a version that our fans and our supporters know what to expect of us each and every time we enter the pitch and each and every time we launch an initiative. And so for that consistency, that excitement, we can build here, and I think it's a great challenge and a great opportunity, but it's also reflective of we've got work to do.
Matt, Mauricio Jaramillo with Telemundo Colorado. Welcome to Colorado. And
Thank you.
my question is, how important is for you the fan base in a city where we have people from all over the world, and especially a lot of Latin fans that they're crazy for soccer?
I mean, emphatically, I think football is for the fans. So, and that's one of my big motivations for being here and for being a coach, is I want to excite people, I want to excite the players, I want to excite the ownership, I want to excite the front office, I want to excite every member of staff that works here. But first and foremost, I want to excite the fans. I want to put, for Kevin's phrase, a product on the pitch that everyone's proud of, everyone wants to come and see, everyone can get behind, and let's have a hell of a journey this season. I actually showed something to the players this morning in the meeting. Something's come out from, I think, various journalists, pundits, analysts in the MLS, their predictions of where we're going to finish this season. So I showed the players that and said this is going to be a hell of a story because we're not going to finish there. So it's part of that, and the players, from the result of the weekend, but more so the performance of the weekend, their belief is growing. So I'm very confident we're going to put an exciting brand of style on the pitch that the fans will be excited by, and then that just has a knock-on effect from there.
Hey guys, Mitchell Carroll with Commerce City Radio. Good to see you guys. Nice to meet you. I have a question about, in regards to the rebrand sort of initiative that came out over the off season, maybe unexpected to a lot of fans, or like more of the hardcore fans. I guess sort of, if you could sort of walk us through the origin of that, like were there any key metrics that said maybe we do need to rebrand the club, and sort of where is that standing at this point, and what can fans expect in the near future regarding that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot more to come on that, to be perfectly honest. I think the One Club, One Legacy initiative was ultimately to hear from fans. That's what this was about, was to go out to fans and to get a sense of what they were looking for and a sense of how they felt about certain things. And I think Hayley and her team and the agencies that we brought on board have done a terrific job with that. We're thrilled with the feedback. We're thrilled with, the number of people that responded and the information that gave us, and there'll be a lot more to come on that. But ultimately, as we've said all along in this process, we're going to listen to the fans. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to be guided by that. And as Kevin spoke about, the opportunity that's there for us is so big. Like, it's massive, and we've got to now avail of that, and we've got to take advantage of that, and we've got to execute on that. And one of the ways we'll do that is by listening and by hearing our supporters, hearing our fans, and making sure that we execute to that, and we're led by that to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think these two questions go hand in hand. When you have the lowest valuation and among the lowest revenues in MLS, you have to take a look at everything that you're doing and making sure that you're living up to the promise that our fans, that our supporters want. And, when I think of going through this, and, it's unfortunate, there are three of us up here, but Hayley should be up here as well with her role at the club. But we talk about process and results and reimagining what we're doing on the pitch long term with Matt. It's the same with Hayley and the brand, right? As we sit here entering, just passing 30 years. It's important for us to listen to the fans about what's working and what's not, right? And truly diving in. And, the words rebrand can be scary to anybody. But quite frankly, we're not full at every match. right? We're not drawing the attention we should be. We're not drawing the revenues and the attendance and the growth that we want. And it would be a shortcoming of ours if we didn't try to study why. Are there answers within what the fans are telling us that are holding us back as a club? It's easy to say, hey, you didn't make the playoffs, so you lost some season ticket. That's surface level. At our core DNA, we should always be trying to be creative, to reimagine who we are and where we're going and where we can be. And I think that is behind the One Club, One Legacy, is getting that feedback, trying to understand exactly what our fans want to hear, not just about the game day experience, not just about the food or the scoreboard or the parking. It's truly about what makes the Rapids special. And how do we bottle that up? How do we distill that? And then how do we spread that throughout the community in a meaningful way? And if there are changes, whether it's the crest, whether it's the colors, those are things that we want to understand and get the feedback on. Because, and I think as Haley said, this is going to be fan-driven and fan-led. But you have to ask the questions. You're not doing your job as any franchise if you're not constantly questioning what you get right, how we get better, what we're doing. We do the same with the Avalanche. We do the same with the Nuggets. You know, to me, it's always about striving for better on the pitch and off the pitch. And I think this is a great way to start, even though I think it probably raises more alarm bells, because when I look at the Rapids, great core support. How do we grow that beyond a core support and to become bigger in this market? We owe that to our players. We owe that to our staff. We owe that to our fans, and ultimately to ourselves, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to grow this brand and grow this franchise, ultimately to get back to provide the support for 5 to 10 years the Madden and the players are going to need. So when people look back and they say, and I saw those rankings too, you know, from the MLS media, this turnaround story, where did it start? We know where it starts on the pitch. Where can we start it off the pitch? It starts with Haley and her group truly reimagining the fan experience, listening to the fans, and making sure we're diving into that.
All right, we're going to move to some questions from some individuals on Zoom. First and foremost, I will read off this question we have from Brendan Plone from the Burgundy Wave. This is for Kevin and Pádraig. What progress has been made during the off-season, so similar to this, during the off-season from an infrastructure perspective? And it's a two-parter. Also, what were the conversations with the Summit like planning the games that they will play here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park?
So I'll take the Summit one to start off with. I think, again, the Summit conversations have been great the whole way along. We've done everything in our power to try and, help them acclimatise. It's their first year out. It's our 30th year. So there's a kind of nice symmetry to that. But we've done a lot with them, whether it's just, answering some general questions for them, obviously, and enabling them to come in here and hosting them for some games. Our U14 or U15 team will scrimmage against them in preparation for the season. So we're doing everything we can to try and help them set up, because it's difficult. It's not easy, but obviously we want them to succeed, and we're going to continue to help with them. From an infrastructure perspective, I think it almost touches on exactly what Kevin said previously in terms of listening and the work that Haley and her group have done to again try and put in place something that can provide the customer experience that we're looking to provide. And I think these questions, as Kevin has said, they are all linked, and that's up to us now to go and deliver on that, to make sure that we've got the product on the field, the exciting football, the entertaining football, the winning football that we know is going to draw fans, and then providing a game day experience that they're going to really enjoy, and that's going to have them coming back time and time again, so that we can fill out the building and have 17,000 people supporting the team and creating an atmosphere that I think we all want and that our fans, I think, are going to really enjoy. So there's more to come in that in the coming days and weeks as we announce certain things that we are changing. And again, like with the One Club, One Legacy, I think that will all become clear in time.
And the only thing, it's well said, I'll add on the Summit. When we were in Los Angeles with the Rams, when Angel City started up, know their founding group well. And they found themselves without a practice facility, 2 months before the season. We opened the doors and gave them the Rams practice facility for that first year. They ultimately wound up taking it over when we left. So we know the experience of being a startup club in the NWSL, the great opportunity and success that the Summit are having, but also the challenges that come, especially when you're given less than a year really to build a club and start. So we're thrilled to be able to jump in and help. I think it'll be a great experience for them and a great experience for us, and we want to see them have as much success as they can.
Thank you. Then I have a question here from Braden Norris at the Denver Post. Matt, How much of Saturday's win was an indication that tactics and play style are starting to stick with the group, and how quickly are you expecting that to translate into the results of the regular season?
Yeah, not so much the result. I don't think that was indicative of anything necessarily other than we wanted to win. It was the first game of pre-season that we actually prepared for as a game, in terms of studying the opposition, training a little bit on the opposition, physically tapering off a little bit in the build-up to the game. So it was a good indication for me of where the group is at. Some good stuff. Definitely lots to improve, and we still have to keep pushing. I'm always keen to stress that, I know. But I think for me the most pleasing thing was the guys took massive belief from the performance, because I think up until now I've been trying to convince them that we can be a dominant team, we will be a dominant team, and ultimately that's my words. But so for them to feel it on the pitch is a massive step forward. But we have to keep pushing.
Thank you, of course. And then another one from the Zoom from Eamon Shaw at the Burgundy Wave. Pádraig, what can we expect from the rest of this transfer window? How does the club plan to spend the funds from the Cole Bassett sale?
Yeah, there's still more to come. There's no doubt about that. And I think this is a really interesting season because of the World Cup break. There's only 14, 15 games for teams before the mid-season transfer window, which is obviously a larger global transfer window and provides increased opportunities to bring in players. So I think one of the things that Matt, myself, and our scouting group have talked a lot about is making sure that we get the right players. You know, that's absolutely critical here. I think we've already shown and already spoken about the fact that we have a lot of confidence. We like the base of this roster. We really do. I think now that Matt has had the chance to work with them for 6 or 7 weeks, it's clear the areas that we need to improve in. And we've got targets in those areas. We're involved in active negotiations for a centre-back, active negotiations to add another winger to the group as well. And we may add one other position over the coming days too. So we're certainly looking to strengthen again, but it's a very, very tailored, very specific approach, because the positional profiles that are required to execute on Matt's game model, they're very specific, you know. So it's a particular type of player that marries them with the character and the mentality that we obviously prioritize here at the club. But we're very clear in terms of what we're looking for, and as I said, hopefully we'll get a few of them across the line. But the most important thing is that we make sure that we're getting the right players, and if we have to wait till the summer on some of them, we will. I think everyone's seen, obviously, Miguel come back. He had his first full training session really with the group this morning, so that's good. But yeah, certainly more to come in this window, and then obviously in the summer as well.
Okay. And we'll toss it back to the questions here in the room.
Hi, Pat Radigan with Footy 5280. Matt, nice to finally meet you here.
Hey,
so yesterday I was at the kids clinic and Jackson was there, and I made a joke to him about, is part of him just worried you're going to pop out and tell him to get on the line. And he at first he made a little joke about it, but then immediately just kind of like snapped in and started talking about the same thing you're saying, the dominant part of it and the game model. And I wanted to remind him, hey, this is a kids clinic. I didn't but just that notion of how much the players have just embraced it, because obviously you can tell them things, you can deliver a message, but just when it comes to mentality, kind of the subconscious nature of just adapting to the mentality. What have you seen from the start of training camp to now being in game week, and how important is that part of it? Just the players, believing it in their bones rather than having to be something they express.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think the football definitely developed the quickest, so I think straight away I was quite surprised with the group. How quickly they picked things up from a football perspective, and some of the stuff we were witnessing in training on sort of day 5, day 6, day 7 really surprised me in a positive way. But I think that what was frustrating me was the mentality side of things, that we played a couple of early games and I didn't feel like we looked like a big team. We were still too reactive in moments, and we were allowing the other team to take control of certain situations on the pitch. We were playing our football but without true belief in it. So to hear that from Jackson's positive, as I say, I think the Orlando game was a massive step forward. It has to be, because it was such an emphatic performance and an emphatic result. And I think there was definitely a feeling of superiority there on the pitch, which maybe initially surprised the guys, but we have to quickly drop that surprise and make that the norm now.
Matt, another kind of a short one for you, hopefully not too short, but Pádraig and Kevin kind of mentioned it earlier, the academy and the R2 and guys coming up through that pathway. One of the things I've liked so far from what we've seen in preseason are significant minutes for guys like Jackson or Wayne Frederick and to an extent, I guess, Darren Yappy. Could you kind of share with us, I know not too much, but kind of your assessment of those guys, the young guys, and how they're taking this new opportunity that you guys as a staff are presenting? Thank you.
Yeah, I think certainly the guys you've mentioned, I've been keen to stress with them that to stop seeing yourself as young players. I don't want you here training as young players. I don't want you here trying to contribute to training and get the odd minutes here and there. Like, see yourself as a star, and maybe I'll see you as one as well. And I think certainly Jackson, Wayne, those two guys especially spring to mind, because I think they've really embodied that. They've shown the correct mentality, and I'll be honest, they've made a massive impact on me. And I now do see them as established first-team players. I don't even consider them as young guys. And that's the attitude I want from all of the young players here. I think, yeah, I used to, when I did the 21s at Tottenham, guys would come up and train with the first team, and you could say you're either trying to impress the players or you're trying to impress the staff. And that's what I want, trying to impress the staff, not the players. So some of those young guys have made massive first impressions, and I love that. I love that they come up and train, and they keep the older guys honest, and we've got real good competition here in the squad. So it's an exciting time from that perspective, but they've got to keep pushing.
Matt, obviously coming over from a club like Tottenham, involved in multiple competitions a year, European competitions, you probably don't have a lot of time for other leagues to pay attention to, but your view of the MLS before, this job opportunity comes up, how much, how exposed to it were you? How much, what was sort of your overall view of the league, of the club, and then how much has that changed in the almost 2 months since your hire?
Yeah, I think I said before in a couple of interviews, I was lucky, obviously, that I've got a couple of contacts out here, obviously quite close with Sonny, and Sonny had come out recently, and so I speak to him a lot on the phone, and then actually bumped into him in London while we were in the process. So I had a lot of long discussions with him. He was very positive about the landscape over here, same as Eric when he was at Minnesota. And obviously, yeah, I was very busy in my job, but I follow worldwide football, and it's always been a league that appealed to me. And since coming out here, as I said before in the previous answer, the level of comprehension of these players is very high, very, very high in terms of their technical level, but also their tactical understanding, how they buy into certain concepts, how hard they're willing to work. There's a really good culture here from that perspective. Of course, I can't speak for is that at every club, or is that something we're doing very well? That side of it, I don't know. But yeah, so far I'm very, very happy. I'm so excited to be here and can't wait to get going against Seattle.
John Babiak, old school photojournalist with the Daily And question for Coach Wells. Who would you say stands out as a leader on your squad over the course of the last 7-8 weeks that you've been with him? And then following up on that, if you were a betting man, who would you see as your emerging captain? And walk us through how that selection process is actually made. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. I think, again, a bit like I said before, I want everyone to be a leader in the squad. I think everyone can lead in a different way. Everyone has different personalities. I think the days of an archetypal leader that screams and shouts are gone. So I think even the young guys can lead in their own way. I certainly want leaders on the pitch in terms of to play my football. You have to have extreme personality and courage, which are all obviously huge traits of leadership. But there have been some senior guys in the dressing room who have really impressed me so far. I think the two that I guess are on the tip of my tongue at the moment are Zach Steffen and Keegan have both really shown good leadership. So I've had a lot of close dialogue with those two. In terms of actually appointing a captain, it's not something that I've got round to yet. I want to still just shape the wider leadership of the squad, but it is something that will happen fairly soon for sure.
Matt, you mentioned seeing the predictions from the MLS site and not being thrilled with it necessarily, but I guess my question is, being at the gaffer spot for the first 2 months, has being head manager on the team been anything that you've expected? Has there been something that you didn't expect? Like, what has your experience been in your first head manager position?
No, I mean, first of all, I definitely wasn't unhappy to see the rankings of that's totally fine to me. I think if anything, I see that as an exciting opportunity to. There's nothing I like more than proving people wrong, and for me, that's just going to add to the storyline. And that's exactly what I said to the players this morning. I'd like to think anyone who was sat in the stadium on Saturday night might have a slightly different prediction off the back of watching, not the result, because results can go either way. It's football. It's a low-scoring game. There's random events. Anything can happen. But certainly the flow of the game and the dominance that we had in the game, we certainly didn't look like a team to me that will finish that low in the table. And then the second part of it, I'm loving it. It's exceeded my expectations. I think I said in an interview last week, I've been ready for a number of years in my mind. It's just been a case of waiting for the right opportunity. Through all our conversations with the guys here at the table, I had big suspicions that this was the right opportunity for me, and that's only been further confirmed and enhanced since I've been here. So nothing but excitement from me, nothing from excitement about the playing squad, the organisation, the people behind the scenes. What we can create this season is limitless, and I genuinely believe that.
I think to back up Matt's point, Dax McCarthy already admitted on Saturday night he made a mistake. He was at the game, and I think he was pretty clear that he got that one wrong.
This question's for Kevin. The last time we heard from you from this kind of forum, you said that the bar was to compete for an MLS Cup. Can you define what that means and what a successful season of the 2026 looks like?
Look, I think a successful season, I'm probably coming at it from a different perspective than 2 months ago, having just finished a season in the NFL in which we were, lost in the NFC Championship, and you're trying to grapple with whether it was a successful season or not. And in a world where 1 out of 30 goes home happy. But I think our expectation is to compete for an MLS Cup. And a successful season is taking meaningful steps in that direction and being in that conversation, right? And it's not where you start, it's not where people expect, but those are our expectations for a club. And I think the same way, Matt just talked about, players can't talk about themselves being young. They have to see themselves as being first teamers and being leaders. We talked about this in the last press conference. Champions act like champions before they're champions. And that's the mentality that this group has to take, both on the pitch and off the pitch. And there's no reason to water down expectations just because others have. And I want for us to be championship DNA and hold ourselves to that standard. Now, maybe there's more room to grow with this club, but nothing short of being competitive, playing attractive football, drawing people here, growing the brand is acceptable. And, I think there's no reason to lower the bar. I think for too long, I don't want to say internally we've lowered the bar, but we've been willing to take, mediocrity as success. And for me, that's not an option. And I think for ownership and for KSE, mediocrity is not an option. There are different ways of looking at it, but I expect this team to grow. And by the time we're having this conversation next year, these players have developed, the system's developed, and people know exactly what to expect out of the Rapids. And I think that's a meaningful season. A successful season is one in which we truly compete.
I'll jump on the back of that one since you brought up the Rams. Sorry about not getting the title, but you did get an MVP out of that. I don't believe the Rapids have yet had a league MVP, but champions act like champions. I want to get all three of you on the record for this season. Who do you think is going to be the Rapids' offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, rookie of the year, and the first player to have a chance at the MLS MVP from Commerce City, Colorado?
I'll go first. This is going to sound boring, and it's not the answer you want, Matt, and I understand that. But again, this group is going to win as a team. That's the reality of it. And MVPs are incredible. I don't know Matthew Stafford, so Kevin will have to confirm this, but I'm pretty certain someone like Matthew Stafford would give up the MVP for a ring every single day of the week, right? The same thing applies for us. I think the beauty of a club like this and the beauty of what we've been building and what we're going to continue to build is the group that's down there and the group that now Matt is going to, lead. The character, the mentality, the spirit within that group is really strong. And I think one of the things, there were many things to come out of preseason for me, but one of the things that will be etched in my memory is those last minute, the end of training sessions, and Matt then says, okay, get on the line. Many teams would have quit. Many individual players would have quit. But the fact that no matter how hard Matt pushed, those players responded, and within that, individual players responded by bringing others with them. I think that spoke volumes about the type of group that we have there. And again, I don't think if you asked any single player down there if they would want to be MVP or if they would want a title, I don't think they would hesitate for a single second in terms of what they would want, and that's to win a title. That's what every single person here wants, and that's what every single person here is driven towards day in and day out. We have exceptional talent in this roster. There's no doubt about that. There's incredible individual talent in that. But, Paxton Aronson isn't going to be worried that he didn't score on Saturday night. Not a concern of his at all. What he's looking at is, did he contribute to the performance of the team? Did he contribute to executing against the plan that Matt had set out? And did the team walk off the field with 3 points? That's right. I know it's a preseason game, but did we walk off with the win? That's what's important. And I think over the course of the year, what you're going to see is a group, and I mean a group, not just 11 players. This is going to have to run 16, 17, 18 deep, and then ultimately the entire 23 and beyond that, because we know there's going to be guys from the second team that will also contribute to this. That's where the success is going to come from. That's what we're looking to build here. And individual honours that come with that are fantastic. Like, who would rule out a Paxton Aronson? Not me. Who would rule out a Zach Steffen? Not me. Darren Yappy, like the strides he's made with the structure that Matt's given him, incredible. These young players coming through, it's terrific to see, it really is. But ultimately, the goal here is to win MLS Cup. And what we do have down there is a group that is together, a group that is willing to work for each other, willing to sacrifice for each other. And what I've seen in 6 short weeks is a group that truly believes in the game model that Matt's put in front of them. And again, to do what they did, I mean, it's going to shock people, but the output, the physical output from this offseason is 2x last year's output, which is staggering, absolutely staggering. But again, I think it shows that one of the things that Matt's unlocked already is showing these players that they didn't quite understand where their limits were. Matt said no limits. That's what he's proven to them already in preseason, is that that's what they can do collectively when they're in it together. And again, that image of a couple of players dragging a few through saying, come on, we're going to finish this off, that's going to stay with me for quite some time. I think it's testament to the work that Matt and the group have done already down there, and I think it's going to stand us in good stead. There's not going to be a lot of teams who are going to enjoy coming here and trying to match us at altitude. That I can tell you for sure. So it's probably not the answer you wanted. It's probably a boring answer, but it's the truth in my mind.
Yeah, I think both are linked. I want both. I want to win the whole thing, and I want the guys. I'll be disappointed if the guys aren't up for individual accolades, like in the style of football we're going to play. I think the platform is there for them to go and have big seasons all across the pitch. I think the weekend, Paxton 2 assists.
Yeah.
Paxton 2 assists. Rafa 2 goals. Dante Seeley assist. Yaps assist and goal. So I think there's definitely the football we're going to play. The front guys are going to have a chance to get good numbers. But then at the same time, on the other end of the pitch, you've got a back four consisting of Jackson, Noah Cobb, Lucas Harrington, and then, Keegan gave a bit of seniority and maturity back there. But you look at the age of these guys, and I was disappointed with the goal we conceded, but it was a direct free kick. We made a mistake, but in terms of open play, not conceding any goals, the way we worked as a team, how aggressive we were on the press, how compact we were in the middle of the pitch, tactically, carrying out the game plan almost to perfection. So I think the platform's there for the guys to go and embrace it and show themselves individually as part of the collective.
I guess these guys hosed me by not answering and leaving me to be the one to come up with the name. So, look, I think, I was thinking through, I'm glad I went last, how I would answer this. But I actually think if you look at our other football club, Arsenal, it's a great example. They're atop the Premier League right now. Nobody's leading statistically. If you look at Premier League, I think as a couple of weeks ago, no one had more than 5 goals in Premier League play. It was a team effort. And this is probably, tough for Matt to hear a little bit. But right now, they're leading the league in goals conceded, leading the league in goal differential. It's about your team. And, the star of the team is always the team. And I think if you have success, individual accolades come from that. And I think if you want to compare it to the Rams, Matthew Stafford won MVP because we were the number 1 offense. And because of Puka Nacua, because Devontae Adams led the league in receiving touchdowns, because we led the league in rushing success. All of those things contributed to Matthew Stafford winning MVP, and it's a different, I think, completely different sport when you're looking at a quarterback and the recognition that they get overall. And I think you see it with our other teams, whether, we have a credible chance for Nathan McKinnon, I think, to go win MVP. Hopefully Nicola can play the remainder of the stretch and put his name in there. But, people remember who wins titles. They forget who wins MVPs. And I think that's something, overall, it's a great hallmark. And, it gets back to where we started. We've had, within KSE system, we've had 3 titles. We've had 3 MVPs now in the past few years. Hopefully Arsenal gets there. This club has to be in that conversation. Whether it's titles, whether it's MVPs, that's how we have to view ourselves and what we have to be growing to. It's not done overnight. But that is, going to be what represents success. And to have people in those conversations, scoring goals, playing defense, the star of the team's the team, but when the team is a star, your stars get recognized.
All this talk about young players, identity of the club. I want to ask about the sale of Cole Bassett to Portland, because obviously he's so involved as a part of the community initiatives, and he was always a face to jump into a post game after a tough loss. Homegrown, probably the most successful homegrown the team has had. Walk us through the process of, was it a fast sale, came out of nowhere? Was it something that you had explored throughout the offseason? And how do you do the math on, can we replace him 1-for-1? How do we replace him in the aggregate, in terms of whether it's with Haley in the marketing side, with Matt with the on-field product, and how that deal sort of came about?
Yeah, it was difficult. I will say that straight off the bat. I've known Cole since he was 13, 14 years of age. I remember watching him in San Diego. I think he was 13, 14 maybe at the time, in the U19 playoffs, or 15 in the U19 playoffs, and deciding that day, yeah, he's ready, we're going to sign him. And, we've been through a lot of ups and downs with Cole, some incredible highs, obviously on the field, his move to Feyenoord, some great things, his goal against Bosnia. So he means a lot to the club. He really does. Change is difficult, and it requires tough decisions at times, but those decisions always have to be made with a clear focus on the outcome that you're looking to achieve. And that outcome is obviously building the best roster that we can for Matt and putting ourselves in a position to win the title. That's what we're looking to do. And again, look, there's always inquiry. So, I'm sure it doesn't surprise you all, but every year every window, I should say, every club is talking to each other. What about this? What about that? Is this player available? Is that player available? So that's normal. And, there's always been some interest in Cole. And I think this year the difference was that as Matt, and I'll let Matt speak a bit more about this, but as Matt started to look through the roster, he was really pleased with the talent that we had in central midfield and with the depth that we had there. And there were other areas that we, of course, had to reinforce and had to bring in players. So with that, there comes tough decisions in terms of, okay, who's going to go to make way for this? And we felt that the best position, or the best decision to put us in a position to win, was to make this trade and ultimately to move Cole on. And I think we got a very strong return for Cole, and that's going to allow us to continue to invest in the roster as a whole. Wish Cole nothing but the best, except for the 28th of February, right? And of course, his first game, or the first home game, would be him coming back here, and I'm sure it's going to be great for him and his family. But at the end of the day, we made the decision that was in the best interest of the club, in the best interest of building a roster that Matt can use to execute his game model week in and week out. And that's what we've got to do. And Cole was great about it. Look, Cole didn't want to leave. He loved it here. But at the same point in time, he understood as well what was coming in terms of minutes for him maybe, and where that was going to leave him. So I think this is a decision that ultimately works out for all parties.
Yeah, I think Pádraig's nailed it really. I think I've got such a specific style of play and specific system, and I really don't want to dive too deep into it and give too much away, but I think it'll be a little bit clearer once you guys get to watch us. And there's other guys I felt in that position that really fit the system, fit the game model, and like Pádraig said, tough decision, but you have to make tough decisions in a period of change and to move the organisation forward. So it was a necessary step for us as a club.
All right, we're going to have one more question here in the room and then toss it to 3 more on Zoom. and then that will be it. Thank you. John.
Thank you. Question about the acquisition of Dante Sealy. He paid $1.9 million in GAM, a tidy sum for this club. What had you seen in him prior to acquiring him, and what have you seen since then to make that investment in this player?
Do you want to start?
I'll go. Yeah, listen, I was a massive fan of Dante when I was watching him in the recruitment process. Again, it goes back to the clarity I have around the system we're going to play and what functions we need in different positions, and also a little bit around the piece. And we needed certain attributes in the squad. One of them was definitely some left-footed balance, because no one in the front half of the pitch had a left foot, so that was going to be crucial for the way we wanted to play. And then certainly in the winger position, I'm always looking for 1v1 players and players who can create the last action, and Dante can definitely do that. So yeah, I was a big fan of his, and delighted we could bring him to the club. And then since working with him, I've been even more impressed. I love the way he takes criticism. I'm quite a honest, transparent person with how I communicate with the guys, so I love his character. He's a very, very good footballer, but an even better person, and that's very important to me. So he's one that I've no doubt will go from strength to strength this season. Had a couple of bits in pre-season with his body language that we've addressed, and it was a much better version of him on the pitch against Orlando. But he'll be a big contributor this season in terms of goals and assists. I've no doubt about that.
I think what he just said was Dante Sealy for MVP. Right? Was that the answer to the previous question?
Yeah.
We got to give some names. So,
All right. So from Zoom, from Mark Goodman of Holding the High Line, what makes this group of guys special, and what do they need to do to be successful?
From my perspective, vision and identity. That's what these guys needed. They needed something to buy into and be attached to that's bigger than themselves. And like I said a few times in my answers, they're probably getting repetitive now, but to see that there are no limits, and I want them to wake up every morning, come into the building energized to achieve and create big things. Not just come here to, can we get into the playoffs? Can we do this? No chance. So I wake up every morning excited, energized, coming to play a brand of football that everyone in this division is going to be talking about. I believe that's what they needed, and I think since I've set that path out for them, they also needed to be pushed, and they've definitely been pushed, and I'll continue to push them. But like Pádraig said earlier, it was actually starting to annoy me. Everything I threw at them, they were just batting it straight back to me, and they were coping with it far too easily for my liking. And every time I upped the ante, they would respond. So definitely with this group, it seems the greater the challenge, the greater the response, which is definitely a good attribute to have as a group of people. And now it's on me to give them a clear identity, a clear style of play, clear feedback every time we veer off the path, which will inevitably happen, and then we'll move forward in the right way.
Great. And then from Dwayne Brown over at DNVR, from Matt, this one's for you as well. How has the squad adapted to the change to a possession-oriented style, and will the fans see that change in the home opener?
Yeah, they'll definitely see the change. We'll see it in every game. Doesn't mean we'll be successful. It's not. I don't want to make the mistake, and I think I've translated it well to the players. I don't want them to believe that possession gives you anything in the game. It doesn't. When I talk about control, say the Columbus game was a good example. We had complete control of the game. If we had stats on that, we probably had 65% of the ball, but we had about 7 shots, which is nowhere near enough, and Columbus had outshot us, so we didn't have control of that game. Control for me is we create lots of goal-scoring opportunities and we concede little. It just so happens that my method of control is to have the ball. So we'll see it in every game. It will vary in success from game to game, but that's always good feedback for me, and we'll always be immersed in the process. What was it specifically that went wrong? We then improve that, we train that, and then we turn up the following weekend as a better team. So so far I've been really happy with the adjustment. As I said earlier, I think it's the thing that surprised me the most. After 4 or 5 days, they were showing a real high level of the football they want to play, and it's not easy. It's complex. There's a lot of detail that underpins it. So they've made good steps, but they've got to keep pushing.
Great. And then last question here is from Braden Norse over at the Denver Post, and Pádraig, this one's for you. You gave us a stat a few months ago of this team having dropped 21 of 36 points against non-playoff teams in 2025. What gives you the confidence in this team and in Matt particularly that that sort of performance won't happen again?
I think what gives me the confidence is everything we saw from Matt over the course of the recruitment process to bring him here, and then what we've seen in the 6 or 7 weeks to date so far. I think something that Kevin and I talked about at the previous press conference was raising the standards and setting a level of a demand of the players that was different to last year. And that's something that Matt has done, and I think I've spoken a few times now about just showing the players what was possible and showing them that there were no limits. And I think when you ally that with the game model that Matt is executing here, it gives you the ability to do exactly what Matt has just spoken about, which is control games. And you can control games in numerous different ways, but I think controlling games with the ball here at altitude is something that is going to put us in a very strong position. But I think when you marry those two things, when you have a strong game model that the players are 100% bought into and executing against with the right mentality, the right belief and the standards, then you put yourself in a position to ensure that you don't drop the kind of points that we did last year and that ultimately, cost us so very dearly over the course of the season. So.
All right, and that wraps up today's press conference. Thank you, Kevin, Matt, and Pádraig for your time, and thanks everyone who's able to attend and everyone on Zoom. Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.